Now, get photos actually returns a promise. So in order for us to invoke this specific promise, there are a couple of ways we can go about it. Now, we can turn this into a .then syntax, or we can use an await keyword and wait for this promise to resolve. And based on its data, we can essentially pass it on. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, let's say const photos, and here we can say await with these photos. Now, if we console log photos right here and save it. Now, let's go ahead and check it out in our terminal. If we go back to our code, you can see that it does give us a response and it is a success. So far, whatever we have done, it's actually looking really good. Very nice. Now, let's go ahead and parse this response. But as you can see that there is object, object, object. Now, one way we can go about it is we can console log each and every element, and that would work, but it would be really slow. So the other way is we can just head over to the documentation and take a look at the response right there. Now, if we head over to the documentation, you can see that it gives us a photos list, right? So if we scroll here, it does say that it gives us results. And so for example, these would be the results, right? So if we go back here, this would be the results part. And we can just say results.response.results. Now that I think about it again, probably they're talking about these results. So these would be the results. And if you head back, it would be results.urls. And in our case, we can just go with a small image. Now, if you do want to go with a large image, definitely go for it. But in our case, since our app is actually showing smaller images, right? So we don't necessarily need a bigger image. But if you do want to use it, go for it. Now here, let's go ahead and we can just say result, or we can say unsplash results, and we can say photos.response.results. And over here, we can again console log the results just to make sure. Unsplash results. Sweet. Now, if we go back to our terminal and see it right here, it still hasn't refreshed. So let's go ahead to the browser and refresh the page and go back to our terminal again. Now, here we are seeing a lot more data. Beautiful. Now, even though it does return so much data, right? If we go back to our documentation, all we care about is the URLs, right? We don't necessarily need any user information or anything like that. Because if we do go back to any of these values, we are only showing the image right here. We're not showing anything about the user right here or who uploaded the photo. So let's go and tweak that. So we can say unsplash results.map. Now the reason why we are doing this is we are saying that, okay, I don't care about anything else other than URLs. So let me just loop in through all the results, all the 10 images right here, and then return only URLs from there. So that's what we are going to do. So we can just say map, and we can just say result right here. And we can say result.urls. And since we wanted a small image, we can say small. Now that we have done that, these are our actual photos. So we can basically say photos response, I guess, right? And then we can remove these two console logs because it can get confusing, right? And then we can essentially console log this just to make sure. Now, photos response. All right, now let's go back to our terminal and scroll all the way down. And there is a mistake it says that results.urls is not a function. So let's check out what happened right here. One thing I noticed right here that this should be a box bracket and not a round bracket, right? Because we are trying to access the object as itself. So this is the way we would do that. And let's hit save. Now, if we go back to our terminal, and again, let's check it out. You can see that now we have all these URLs. It's exactly what we want. Now, if we go back to our code again, it is definitely gotten a lot messy. So let's remove the console logs that we don't need, right? Here we can pretty much move this function, these 3 lines, into a separate function. So we can say export. Actually, we don't need to export it because only this file is using it. So we can say get list of coffee store photos. And here we can say this, just like that. And we can pretty much just return this because that's what we want, right? And here we can call it. Now, again, use the photos keyword here and we can await. Because since this function is a async function, we can just use await right here. And we can say get list of coffee store photos. Now, as we do that, we have photos. Now, it's looking a lot better now that we have a separate function. Now, last thing, what we would like to do is that in venues, we would like to also add an additional image. And this image would come from Unsplash, which is our function right here. So, since we are specifically asking for 10 images, right? What we can do is that we can say that as we are looping through venues, let's go ahead and add image in addition to the venue data. And the first index of venue would match the first index of the photo. And what I mean by that is we can say dot map venue, right? And here let's return and basically spread venue just like that because we want everything in the venue data. But in addition to that, we also want an image URL. So what we can say is that photos, because we have the photos data right here. And now if we add the 0th element, then every venue in this specific map will get this specific photo, whatever the 0th element photo is. So instead, now the best way to get the index of the venue item is by using the second parameter in the map function, which is an index. So we can just do this. Now let's go ahead and check it out in the browser. If we take a look, it says that we do need to turn this into an async function. All right. Now if you go back, let's refresh the page and woo! This is amazing, but it actually shows photos of cats when these are coffee shops. So we know what to do here, right? Let's go ahead and update this to coffee shop. And we also don't need color and portrait parameters. All we need is, and even page 1 we don't need. All we need is this one because our query is quite simple. Now if you go back, now it's looking a lot better. I mean, I love cats, but coffee shop features for a coffee store app would make a lot of sense. Alright, I hope this was fun. I'll see you in the next one.